Hello, I am Dr. John Vanderslice, and I'm going to be leading you through a series of videos about the essentials of writing fiction. Everything from soup to nuts, and as I tell people, it's kind of like a menu. You can pick and choose from the menu, or you can have the whole thing at a good price. We'll be talking later about building characters. We'll be talking about long form fiction writing. For instance, if you want to write a novel, we'll talk about writing settings, we'll talk about writing dialogue, a whole slew of subjects. But I think it all begins with something that's even more essential than the craft of fiction, and that is finding time to write at all. Because it assumes if we talk about things like character and setting and dialogue, it assumes that you're actively writing and you're producing material. And I think for many people in the world, that is a serious challenge because, as we know, everyone's lives are very busy. I used to teach college. My students were unbelievably busy. Often they had very busy jobs on top of a full load of classes. Sometimes they had family obligations at the same time. We know that working parents are famously busy, exhausted, many different responsibilities to juggle. Even retired people can find themselves a lot busier than they expected. How many times have you talked to someone who's retired and that's exactly what they say? Well, gosh, I'm busier than when I was working because the day just fills up. And that is true for everyone, and that is why it's a challenge to pursue any art form, but you have to do it deliberately. It is very good to be inspired and almost necessary to be inspired, yet you can't sit around and wait for the moment of lightning before you decide I think that's when I'm going to write. Too many things get in the way of writing time for it to happen unless you are more deliberate about it. And effectively scheduling. I think we all have fairly scheduled lives in the world. That's what the world demands from us. So why not do that with your writing as well? And you'll find that if you just start, no matter why you start, if you sit at with your notepad or with your computer or with your recording device, however you decide to express your ideas, if you just start, you'll find your rhythm, and you'll find it's no different doing it like tomorrow at 9 o'clock because you think you're supposed to or decided you're supposed to, as opposed to doing it some other day just because, oh, I feel in the mood. You'll find it's the same writing experience. And many writers will tell you the more often you do that, the more regular you are, the more easy it comes to get into a groove with your writing from day to day. But the first thing we have to do is think about our day. Like, what does my day look like? And there's this great exercise I learned from a writer named Chris Beatty, who has a wonderful and very funny book called No Plot, No Problem, which I taught many times to students, and it's quite funny, and Beatty's theme is, you can write a novel in a month. Those who are familiar with NaNoWriMo know about the idea of writing a novel in a month. Well, Beatty has a wonderful device that he calls a time finder, and I'm going to suggest to you how that works. So you can begin to think about your own day and realize, actually, I am still busy, but I can find time to write as long as I commit to it. And the last thing I'll say before I kind of lead you through that is that no one would ask you to write every single day of the year, although some people do. No one would expect that, but you do need to write regularly. The way you do many things you care about regularly. So hopefully this exercise will be able to help you discover where that regularity, so to speak, fits into your busy lives. So the first thing you want to do with this exercise is to think about your typical day, a typical day in your life. Beatty suggests doing this for a full week, but what I like to tell people is just think about the most recent, pretty typical day in your life, which chances are is probably a weekday, probably, most of you. And start from the moment you get up. What's your typical day? When do you typically get up? And then go through, now, I'm revealing myself here. I get up early. I'm an early riser. So let's say I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so what am I doing at that time of day? I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna write that. So then chart your day by half-hour periods. 4:30 a.m. What am I doing at 4:30 a.m.? Well, I'm drinking coffee to make myself more awake. I'm actually watching a little ESPN to get myself in the mood for the day. And actually, even before this, 5, I start studying French. I'm trying to learn French these days. So that's what I'm doing for about an hour every morning. So anyway, so the point would be to go through each of your half-hour periods of the day, so on and so forth, and give a really quick, brief rundown of what you're doing, and go all the way through until you go to bed at night. So you'll have a whole list of activities, and you'll realize, wow, I forgot I did that. I actually tend to do that very often, don't I? But you have to have the list down in front of you concretely, so you can look at it and then work with it. That's the time finder, that you have to have it down first in front of you before you can think about it and make some decisions. So, what do you do next? Well, the first thing to do is go through all the different activities that you wrote down and think which ones would count as required activities. And what I mean by that is, if you didn't do them, your life would effectively come undone. Like, you couldn't really live your life the way it is, because there are structural elements to your life. And basically, for a lot of us, that means working because you need money, eating, and sleeping. And now there are other, depending on your family situation, family obligations that very well could be required of you. So in that case, just, I'm talking about required parts of your day. Just circle them. Well, studying French, that is not required. So going to work, working, every hour you're working because you have to be there would be required. Taking a break to eat lunch or dinner, that would be required for most of us. So go through all those activities that would be considered required. And you circled them, use a red pen or some colored pen to make it very obvious to you, perhaps. The next thing to do is look at that list again and think about what activities are desired. They're not absolutely essential, but you really like to do them. They're a part of who you are, let's say. For instance, for me, I've been studying French. I'm really working hard to understand that language better. So for me, that would be a strongly desired activity. Would my life fall apart if I didn't do it? No, not at all. But for me, what other, if you're like gardening, you garden regularly, well, that would be a very desired activity. It's something that you associate strongly with who you are and how you carry yourself in the world. It's not that you absolutely couldn't live without it, but you maybe feel like my life would really be different if I didn't do those activities. I really want to do them. Going to the gym, for instance, could be either required or very strongly desired for either, depending on your life situation and how healthy you want to be and are trying to be. So that would be the next category. And then finally, and that's, those required and desired activities are going to probably fill up. You're going to find many things you do in your day fall into one or the other of those categories. The last is what I would call optional. And that would be activities that you actually could jettison, not permanently, but at least for a few days a week, because you don't have to do it. You're binging on a TV series at night after dinner. It's a great series, you love it, so you maybe watch a little bit more than you should. You surf and you're spending a half hour just looking at the web. You're not gathering information that's crucial. You're just like chatting with someone online or looking at Facebook, whatever it would be. Everyone has activities like that in their lives. So circle them as optional. Not that you don't want to do them, you should do them, but really, your life wouldn't be super good if you gave them up. Okay, so after having done the exercise, you've got your full day laid out, 24-hour period, and you've seen some things that are required, you decided other things are strongly desired, but there are other things that are optional. So now ask yourself, what I asked people is, typically on a typical day, do you see maybe an hour you could carve out from optional activities or even from desired activities once in a while? I think everyone has at least an hour. I think everyone does, if not more. If they really look at their lives carefully, they can say, wow, I actually have more time than I realize. And the thing that's really important to remember is that if you put the time you have to good use, you'll be amazed how much work you can produce. A half hour, if you work solidly well for a half hour, you'll be amazed how much you can do. And at least you're doing something. At least you feel like I'm still in the routine. I'm still doing it. My older sister, years ago, took a class in fiction writing. She was interested in that. She was quite a good writer herself. She was a copywriter professionally. And I remember her saying, all these years later, her teacher said to the class, an hour a day equals a book a year. And I thought, well, that's a really neat equation. And it's really true. You just devote a certain number of regular hours to a project. Eventually it comes to fruition. And your desire may not be to write a book. Your desire may be to just write one story, or to write a memoir of your life, or to write a play, whatever it is. You will find you can produce a lot of work if you find that hour, you find that half hour, and put it to serious, give it regular and serious attention. You will find yourself writing fiction more than you ever imagined is possible. So that's our subject for our first session. I'll talk more about creating characters.